This velvety, melt in your mouth chocolate sheet cake with the silky chocolate whipped buttercream frosting is the stuff of dreams, and you are going to love it. Let's get started. You want to preheat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll first bloom our cocoa powder, which essentially means adding hot liquid to your cocoa powder so that it can release more chocolate flavor and make it really intense. I also like adding a little bit of instant coffee powder. Now this liquid is piping hot, so I'm going to keep it aside because I do want it to cool down. And in the meantime, we'll also make our instant buttermilk. So here I have some very lukewarm milk. You should be comfortably able to dip your finger in there without flinching. And into this, you will add some vinegar and then stir it around, and you'll start to notice that the milk starts to curdle and create milk solid chunks like this. As it sits on the countertop, it will curdle even further, so keep that aside. And now we'll sift in our dry ingredients and keep that ready as well. So I'll sift in the all-purpose flour first because my sift cannot take any more. So once I've made a little bit more space in there, I'll add in my baking powder, baking soda, and some salt and sift the rest of the dry ingredients. And if I find any larger chunks there, I will just press it with my finger. That's looking good. And then I'm going to take my whisk and just combine all of the dry ingredients together and then keep that aside. So essentially we're just prepping all of our elements so that when they come together, they make this beautiful chocolate sheet cake. And now in another container, I will crack open 3 eggs, which are at room temperature. I like to add them first in a separate container or a bowl to make sure I don't get any egg shells in. And I also like to add some vanilla extract at this point, and then using a fork or a tiny whisk, you'll just break it apart and then keep it aside. And now we can start working on our chocolate sheet cake batter. So here in the bowl of a stand mixer, I have some softened butter, which is at room temperature. I'm using salted butter in this recipe, but you can use unsalted butter as well if you wish. Now using the paddle attachment, I will just mix this for about 15 to 20 seconds to smooth it out, and then I'll scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl just to make sure everything is in the center where all the action's happening. Now I'll add in both my sugars. So I'm using a mix of caster sugar and light brown sugar. You can use dark brown sugar as well. The molasses content in both the light brown and in the dark brown sugar, of course in the dark brown it has way more molasses content, and that helps add flavor as well as helps keep your cake really nice and moist. So once you've added both the sugars into the butter, you will mix this and cream the butter and sugar mix for about 4 to 5 minutes, and you will scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl halfway through to make sure everything is well combined. And you're going to use a medium high speed. So on my stand mixer, that is a speed 8 on a range of 1 to 10. Then you will add in your room temperature sour cream. Sour cream adds a tiny amount of acidity and also adds a tremendous flavor and beautiful texture to your chocolate cake. So adding that really does enhance the texture and flavor of your chocolate cake. You will start mixing this for about a minute, and then you lower the speed of your stand mixer and start adding the vanilla infused eggs a little at a time. You want to add a small quantity first, wait for it to combine with the rest of the batter, and then add a little bit more. And you will follow this process until all of the eggs have been used up. Halfway through, you might also want to scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl because the ingredients do tend to move away from the center, and you want everything in the center so that it can all mix really well. You can also make this cake batter with electric beaters if you wish. You will go back in now, and on a medium high speed you will mix this for about 2 minutes, and it will start to get incredibly light and fluffy, and it will also lighten tremendously in color and increase dramatically in volume. You'll scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl again. You just want to make sure everything is combining really well. So you'll mix it for a minute, then scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl, and then mix it again. So you're mixing this for a total of 2 minutes, but you're scraping down the sides and the bottom halfway through. You will now add in the dry ingredients that you sifted earlier, and at the same time you'll also add your instant buttermilk. You can see that it has proceeded to curdle a bit more as it was sitting on the counter. That is going to add so much lightness and moistness to your cake. And then you're also going to add in the cooled chocolate mix that you bloomed earlier, and with the lowest speed on your stand mixer, you will mix this for about 10 seconds. Then you'll stop and scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl. Because of the sheer quantity of the ingredients that are in this bowl right now, you do want to scrape down the sides and the bottom just to make sure all the ingredients are mixing really well. And then you'll continue to mix this on a low speed for about 15 to 20 seconds more, and then you'll stop and plop this into a 9 by 13 inch baking dish which has been greased really well, and I have also lined the bottom with parchment paper. I'll add the cake batter in its entirety, and I'll use my offset spatula to just smooth out this cake batter and level it off, and then this will go in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 32 to 35 minutes. It will be light and springy to the touch, and a skewer or a knife inserted in the center will come out clean. You want to take the cake out of the oven and let it cool down completely. And while all of that is happening, we'll make our silky smooth velvety chocolate whipped buttercream frosting. Now, I have an entire detailed video on how to make this chocolate whipped buttercream frosting, so make sure you're checking that out. I'll also quickly walk you through the steps right here. So you want to sift in your icing sugar and cocoa powder first and keep it aside. Then in the bowl of your stand mixer with a paddle attachment, you will cream your butter and room temperature cream cheese. The butter is salted and it is also softened, so it's easier to mix that. And then just mix it for about 30 seconds till it's nice and smooth. Scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl, and then with your paddle attachment running on a low speed, start adding your sifted icing sugar and cocoa powder mix into the bowl of your stand mixer. It will be a little difficult to mix it at first as it is combining with the butter and cream cheese. So stop your stand mixer or electric beaters if you're using that, and scrape down the sides and the bottom several times so that everything combines really well. And once you've added all of the icing sugar and cocoa powder mix, just scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl one last time, and then mix on a medium speed for about 2 minutes. It will increase quite a bit in volume and also lighten ever so slightly in color. You can see how that looks. You'll scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl once more, and then also clean the paddle attachment, and then replace it with a whisk and start adding your chilled whipping cream, which has at least 35% of fat content. Once you've added all of the chilled whipping cream in there, you'll mix it for about 10 seconds just until just starting to come together. Then you'll scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl because you can see the chocolate bits remain unmixed, and so you want to scrape down everything and then go in on a medium speed for about a minute, and your frosting will be ready. It is so easy to prepare and literally comes together in minutes. You want to be very careful as to not over whip the cream, so always mix it on a medium speed and keep checking after 1 minute, and ideally 1 minute is enough, but if you feel like it needs a little bit more, just keep mixing it on a low speed at 10-second burst till you're happy with the consistency, and keep it aside. Now our sheet cake is ready. It is so soft and spongy. It has cooled down, and once it has cooled down, I will add in all of my frosting in there and just start spreading it around. This chocolate whipped buttercream frosting tastes exactly like you're eating chocolate ice cream or chocolate gelato. It is silky and smooth and just the perfect balance of sweetness and has the right cocoa flavor. Spread it around evenly over the cooled sheet cake and just spread it around and make little swirly patterns. Now you can stop here, but I also like to go one step further and just add some chocolate sprinkles in there to make it look really nice and pretty. And that is it. Your chocolate sheet cake with a silky smooth chocolate whipped buttercream frosting is ready. The sponge of this chocolate sheet cake is just so velvety and it melts in your mouth, and it has a rich moist texture. It's very tender, very soft. Adding the sour cream and the instant buttermilk tremendously transforms the texture of this sheet cake. It makes it so velvety and melt in your mouth. You absolutely have to try making this cake at home. I am so sure you're going to love it. The tender, moist, melt in your mouth texture of the chocolate cake combined with that velvety, silky smooth chocolate whipped buttercream frosting creates magic. Give this chocolate sheet cake a go, and on the screen, I also have this rich, decadent chocolate fudge cake with a luxurious chocolate fudge frosting that you're going to love. You can watch that next, and I'll see you in another baking video. Until then, goodbye and happy baking.